It's Wednesday, May 9th, 2012. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, the anime that everyone forgot about somehow despite being surprisingly popular in the US.
Let's do this. So it's getting close to the end of the workday, and my phone goes ring-a-ling, and I'm like, what?
I predict another fascinating anecdote.
And I'm like, who the hell is calling me? No one calls me. You're not supposed to call on the telephone in the modern times.
Yeah, it is. Whenever I get a phone call and it's not like during an event where I'm like rapidly in real time coordinating with people, it's always kind of weird. It's like, all right, you're calling me, so it must be urgent, but I'm not talking to you online, so it's probably like someone got hospitalized.
So, first of all, it wasn't one of those, blocked numbers. It showed the number, and it showed where the area code was.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, huh, all right. But it didn't, obviously, they weren't in my contacts. And I think they were from far away, like Texas or Arizona or something. I was like, what? So, anyway, I'm like, all right, and I pick it up. And immediately it says, we are from political something. I think it's going to be one of those political survey situations, right? Like, who you going to vote for?
You know, there was a time in my life, up until about 4 years ago, whenever anyone like that called me, I would mess with them, I'd talk to them, I'd do something, but I don't have time for that anymore.
No,
if anyone calls me and it is not immediately apparent that they are a human who has something real to tell me that I probably already know, I just hang up without saying a word. And if they call back, I block the number in Google.
So I just listened for a little bit, because what else am I going to do, right?
Nah.
And they pretty much said, if you do this, we will give you a free 2-day cruise to the Bahamas on behalf of the people who are paying for this.
Oh, so it's one of those fake cruises where it's technically a real cruise, but they probably force you to do stuff and sell you stuff. And
I have no idea.
And if you don't follow
the
the rules, then they make you pay.
I have no idea what it is, but I'm like, whoa! So I put it on speakerphone so everyone can hear this hilariousness. It plays the message again, and it's like, press 2 to do the thing and press 9 and we'll never call you again. So while it's repeating this message over and over, I search for the name of this place.
You should have recorded it.
How do you do that?
Google Voice. You just hit
I don't have Google Voice.
Oh.
Anyway,
I record every phone conversation I have.
That's cool. So I go to search for the name of the political whatever it is, and on the Google, and I add the word scam, and they're like, yeah, dudes, it's a scam. They're just trying to get you to pay $100 and something bucks. That's all it is they're just trying to get your money. And it's like 2-day cruise, seriously. It's like, even if you figured out how to actually get the cruise, even if there's no other weird loopholes on it, 2 days. It's like, yeah, we'll take you there, we'll take you back up. Okay, bye. And tiny cabin, with a bunch of people who fell for the scam are also on the cruise.
Yeah, the kind of people you probably don't want to hang out with.
Especially not in a boat that you can't escape from in the middle of the water.
I really just don't see the appeal of the standard cruise. Like, you could do a cool kind of cruise in a lot of situations, but it seems like when most people say they're going on a cruise, it's like Princess or something, and it's basically a floating Marriott for a week with a bunch of the kinds of people who would go to a floating Marriott for a week.
Like, imagine if you take the MagFest hotel, put it on a boat, and some of the food's free and some of it's not.
Now, that would be awesome.
But there's no MagFest.
If MagFest were happening during it.
Yeah, anyway. Mag Cruise. Get it going. All right, anyway. So...
what's the phrase? People say this a lot. The only people who go on those cruises are newlywed or nearly dead. Anyway.
So the point is, if you get the same phone call, it's a scam, obviously. If you needed me to tell you it was a scam, I recommend you just not.
Wait, I got better advice.
Pick up your phone ever.
And
don't go to any web pages.
If any number calls you and it's not a human telling you something that's real and somehow relates to you in a direct way, it's a scam. Or it's a telemarketer, which is basically a scam.
Everything's a scam. This is the only way to be safe if you are too dumb to tell.
So it's not really news that the New York Anime Festival is happening, other than the fact that it is somehow surviving, much like a mitochondria inside of a cell of a larger being. But it appears to once again be relegated to the tiniest, backest, most hidden corner of the Javits, and seems to have its own website and its own track. I imagine it'll have that, I hate to use this word, but I'm going to use it, pathetic anime stage instead of panel content or real rooms. I think it's going to be pretty much the same thing as last year. So that I don't really have anything to say about it except it's happening, and I've stopped submitting anime content to that event because it just doesn't seem worth it.
No, it's not worth it.
I mean, I'd still go to like Otakon, Anime Boston, Zenkai-Con, Kineticon, but the New York Anime Festival as a vestigial organ, an appendix to the New York Comic Con,
It's sad.
it feels like I went to the anime part and checked it out, and it felt like a small anime con. It felt like that Ohio con, only pretty happening.
Like an artist alley with a lot of people in it, and a big room full of tables, and a stage with stereotypical stuff
Now,
happening.
here's my trouble with it. That area. So the part that I can't deal with as I get older with anime cons is any public area at the con. And the New York Anime Festival is nothing but that public area. There's no panel room with Daryl Surratt doing something awesome or Mike Toole doing something awesome. It's just one big room. And if you try to go to a panel, well, it's the anime stage. You're still in that big room. You can't escape it.
Nope.
So if we're there, we actually didn't present last year either. If we present, we're not presenting on that anime stage. And we're probably not doing any anime content.
Yep.
Either video games or comics. Or press.
Whatever.
I don't think we even really did a show on it after last year. I didn't have much to say other than I talked to every employee of Hasbro, and none of them had anything to say about My Little Pony.
We'll
and
see
one
what
of
they
them,
have to. Maybe they'll have something to say this time.
they better. Last year, the only thing I got out of him was I kept asking around, and I was in a suit, and I had my press credential and all my stuff, and I was like, look, this is my assignment. I need to talk to someone about this. So finally, they put me in charge of like the guy who was the head of whatever at the con for Hasbro. And he was like, look, every press person who has come up to us has asked about My Little Pony. We didn't anticipate anyone would be interested. We didn't bring anything. I don't have anything to say. I could do an interview with you, but I literally have nothing to tell you that you can't find out from the website.
But it's like you work for this company and you don't know anything about the things at the company you work for.
No, so the only thing I asked him, I was like, no, he knew about it. It's just he didn't have anything to say to the press.
Okay.
Like they didn't expect anyone cared about My Little Pony because this was still before bronies kind of became well known to the mainstream of nerdery and internet-y. Like that was on the rising
we knew.
tide.
Why do we always know?
Of course we knew. We were not number one though. Don't pretend that we were number one.
I'm not saying I'm number one. I'm just saying.
People told us to watch it, and I was like,
Yeah, but
what?
I'm just saying. Why do we? If we weren't even the first, but yet we were still so far ahead of the curve. How is this?
Scott, it's easy because we don't have anything better to do than to stare at the internet 24/7, constantly refreshing
Why are
feeds of
other
things.
people not staring at the internet 24/7?
One, that's actually pretty boring most of the time. I mean, I remember.
What else are they fucking doing?
I don't know. Having sex, going outside.
You don't need to do that shit.
No, Scott, I'm leading you in a different direction. You're not going with me. The answer to that is Google Glass.
That's right.
Anyway, but I do have some real things to talk about because, we kind of previewed the new Lupin, the Fujiko Mine show, but it's not all out yet. We're not going to review it until it's all out, even though it's great.
We could really use another episode
It's great.
idea for a Wednesday show, and being able to talk about a good show again would be a great Wednesday episode.
Well, I want to see enough because we had until recently we hadn't gotten a full-on Zenigata, and we got a lot more Zenigata now, so I have more things to say. But the other shows I've been watching, I've caught up on Venture Brothers, which half of you out there are going too little too late, or somehow amazed that I'm so late to that party. And I've been watching Legend of Korra, which is amazing, but I can't talk about it because Scott hasn't even seen the original Avatar, which is one of the best cartoons ever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it is. It's really good.
Sure.
And the new one is way better than that one.
Mhm.
In fact, I would argue that the new Avatar is the fourth best cartoon, maybe third best, that I am watching or have watched in recent memory. That is current.
Mm.
That is right up there with Ponies, Archer, Venture Brothers.
So only Ponies is exciting.
You haven't seen any of it. You don't even know what it's about or what it is.
I know I don't like Archer, and I've seen 5 minutes of Venture Brothers and didn't care.
Yeah, and what about Avatar?
I haven't seen any of it.
Really?
None.
It's really good.
Whatever.
Okay. But the other thing I've been watching, other than Space Brothers, because I'm actually watching a lot of cartoons lately, is Kids on the Slope, that jazz anime with music by Yoko Kanno and directed by the same guy who directed Cowboy Bebop.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's really talking about this, at least in my anime circles, except for the people who are hardcore about anime.
That's how it usually goes.
Even though it's a great show so far. And I
What
really
are
like
the
it.
typical anime punk kids talking about? There must be a show for them, right?
One Piece. Soul Eater.
Still?
Soul Eater One Piece.
Are those, I mean, I know One Piece is always going, but it's like,
Soul Eater.
is Soul Eater, Bleach, Naruto, are those still going?
Yeah, pretty much. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood still seems to be pretty popular
Isn't that over?
among the young kids. I
What do
guess.
I
but
don't even know.
people still talk about it.
I have every volume of the manga now. I'm going to read it.
Yeah. I'm waiting. The reason I haven't watched Brotherhood yet is that it has the problem that a good chunk of it is just a slightly crooked retelling of the anime I watched the first time.
Well, if it's like the manga, it is much more than slightly correct.
Well, no, there's a point where they deviate.
It's
heavily.
like volume 1.
Yeah. But the anime, like, I can't just skip that part because a number of people have told me that if I skip it and just start where things diverge, it won't make sense because they've crooked a few things just enough.
Well, there'll be characters that, like, you don't even know who the fuck they are.
But the original Full Metal Alchemist, which was an amazing show, but kind of forgettable, but I guess we'll talk about that in the second half because it's kind of relevant, is still too fresh in the memory. So I'm trying to wait until I get to the point where I say, hey, I should rewatch Full Metal Alchemist. It's been long enough, and then I'll just watch Brotherhood instead.
I'm just going to read the whole manga, and that should erase that, that'll take over my Full Metal Alchemist portion of my brain.
Well, what worries me is that
Kick out the anime part.
Dave Riley a while ago, this was a long time ago, said something like he started to watch Brotherhood, but then for whatever reason, I think him and Gratz started watching the original again, and they just kind of kept watching the original and finished that.
Okay.
I never even watched the movie of the original.
Nope.
Like, I got it right away.
I think there were a few movies. I didn't even know what there was because all I did was watch the original TV, and that's it.
I just remember being really excited about that movie, and then when I realized how it was set and what it was about, I have never gone from interested in something to not interested in it as quickly as I did the Full Metal Alchemist movie.
Anyway,
Kids in the Slope is pretty good. You should watch it if you're an anime fan, and we will review it once Scott has watched it as well.
someday. I still didn't watch the previous whatever show.
What do you mean the previous whatever show?
By Watanabe, the Michiko show.
You didn't watch that either? I've seen
watch
enough
that either.
episodes to know it's awesome, but I didn't finish it.
I really just not watching so much.
Why not?
Because I watched, like
It's
all
because
these-
you're watching Ponies and Running Man.
Well, I watch Running Man every week, but
I know.
it's because I watch so many long animes, like all Hokuto no Ken, all Galaxy Express, all Yamato. Right? I watched all these long shows, and I barreled through every single episode of them. And now it's sort of like, well, I got enough animes for a while. Don't really need more animes anytime soon.
All right, even though I've seen all these movies because I don't need to see movies anymore.
I'm also watching a lot of movies lately, but not animes.
So anyway, you got any news or anything? It is
It's a tiny
Wednesday.
news, and it's funny you mentioned Yoko Kanno because she's involved in this news, right? Uniqlo is a clothing store, and apparently they do stuff that really has nothing to do with clothing also. Like, there's like 5 different Uniqlo iPhone apps, and only like 2 of them have anything to do with clothing. But they just came out with a new one called Uniqlo Wake Up. And actually what this is it's an alarm clock that wakes you up. And you might think, what the fuck? Why do I need that? Right? It's also for Android, apparently. Why do I need that? The iPhone and Android both have alarm clocks. This is dumb. Well, what this does that's different than a regular alarm clock is it wakes you up and it actually speaks and tells you, like what the temperature is and what the weather's going to be.
old people watches can do that.
And it plays a little happy music, and the music varies depending on factors such as weather and temperature and what day it is and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like, normally with my, iPhone alarm clock, what wakes me up? Get the fuck up, right? With this, it was like, waking up. And then the other thing is that it's actually, when you got that iPhone alarm, right? There's a pop-up that you push a button on it to turn it off immediately. With this, you actually have to open the app and go into it to turn it off. So it's actually slightly more difficult to disable. So it's a better waker-upper that is also less grating. And Yoko Kanno did all that, variable kind of music in it. I think she collaborated with someone on it. Keigo Oyamada and Yoko Kanno. Those are the 2 people.
All right.
So you can wake up pleasantly with this app that was made for free by a clothing store.
You know, we're not talking about, in the second half, obscure anime that no one remembers, but to this day, anytime someone says the words "wake up," I just immediately hear that song from Gokudo.
I know, right?
Wake up, wake up, wake up.
Yep.
And one last little bit, because the anime industry in America is amazing.
You know, I just want to point out, right? We've mentioned many times in the show in the early episodes of Geeknights, we're all Nintendo, PC's dead. And now, the current episodes, obviously, that's no longer the case. But it's funny how anime industry down the shitter, really the story hasn't changed.
Well, particularly in America, because this is Mike Toole tweeted this. If you missed it, I'll talk about it briefly. Basically, Media Blasters appeared officially dissolved as far as the state of New York was concerned as of April of 2011. So Anime News Network had a story that was like, yeah, check this out. Dissolved. Wonder what's up. We tried to call them. They didn't respond. So
I've seen them at conventions, though.
Yeah. So there was a response from a gentleman on behalf of Media Blasters in their forum, and it is him losing his shit in an unprofessional way about this whole story. It appears that what really happened had to do with them not having actually filed their taxes and instead had filed extensions for like 2009, 2010, and 2011. But eventually, because they kept filing extensions, something happened, and now they have to get caught up on all this paperwork. And it's basically the kind of stuff that happens to every like small or poorly run company. And I know the anime industry is run primarily in the US by people who really are passionate about anime, may not be super business savvy, but you gotta be at least a little bit professional. And if you screw up
It's
fine. It's okay if you screw up like this. I've been late on so many stupid tax filings for the sales tax crap I had to do for that Geeknights store. But you know what? I dealt with it. I didn't freak out publicly in a forum about it on behalf of Geeknights.
Yeah, it makes you look like, you know, it doesn't instill a lot of confidence. It makes you look like a moron. Well, I guess it exposes the reality that you are a moron. Right?
Maybe not a moron. Maybe just you don't know business that well, or you can't keep your cool. You can't. It comes down to
it exposes the truth.
But
then again, if that's the truth, you are also incapable of concealing it.
It's specifically that if you respond to a story like this, the way that this thread went, officially or on behalf of your small company, it just proves that you can't, even if you're not professional, you can't even act like a professional. And stuff like this is why we have such a low opinion of the anime industry in the US.
Well, look, you know, we always talk about how we don't like big companies and how corporate and shut up and boring they are, right?
You say that, I don't care.
I care.
I actually prefer having a faceless corporate landlord because they give me way less trouble than unprofessional local dude landlord ever did.
Well, no. But I mean, like, you know, you ask a company a question, right? And they're like, no comment. We cannot say anything at this time. Instead of just like, listen, dudes.
Yeah, but we don't want actually answering and then flipping out like some kid on a forum. You know what we want? We want everything to be run the way Penny Arcade is run.
Right. We want everything to be right down the middle. You just talk to us like normal, respectable human beings. You don't be all corporate and uptight, not saying anything so that you know, like a robot where
Scott,
like we can't even believe that you're a person.
Name any significant company other than the Penny Arcade Corporation.
Even Penny Arcade keeps secrets and such.
Well, like what?
Well, I mean, do you know they're up to something right now? Where is there going to be third packs? Where is it going to be, right? There's whispers, but they don't say what they're thinking.
Because they haven't decided yet, probably.
Of course, but, you know, they could
Scott, I don't want
include us in the conversation.
Why? I don't care to be included in the conversation.
I
don't think
mind.
It's a big deal. I mean, I don't involve the listeners in, you know, my planning of a trip to Turkey and whether or not that's going to influence a week of Geeknights being on or not. Or, you know, what we're going to...
They're not giving us money.
Yeah, I've never actually given Penny Arcade money.
Ever?
I don't think I ever have.
Not once. You bought Penny Arcade PAX t-shirts.
Okay, I bought bought a PAX t-shirt at 2 PAXs.
It's $40.
Yep. But I've never paid for a PAX badge. I've never...
You have bought any Penny Arcade merchandise at any time in your life other than those
I never
2
actually
t-shirts.
paid you for the Penny Arcade books you got me.
Did I get you Penny Arcade books?
Yeah, it's part of the DCBS thing. It's part of that long-running tab.
Sure. Alrighty.
So they don't owe me anything.
The point is, I just want you to, treat your customers, act professionally while simultaneously showing your customers, or at least being really convincing, that you actually are engaging your customers and taking them seriously. Don't do what the White House petitions do, right?
Which is nothing.
Exactly, right? Actually make us believe that if you're gonna pretend to have a conversation with us, right, and talk to your customers, don't just, sort of pretend to. You have to actually do. And even if you don't do what we say, which would be nice if you did some of what we asked, right? At least, if not all, at least, don't just, be quiet and be like, or freak out. You guys don't know nothing. You got to find that in-between normal person dialogue so that, we at least can respect you and you can respect us as human beings, or we can believe that you're respecting us as human beings.
But if you have to be one of the two, I'd rather you be faceless corporate than
crazy guy, yeah.
Than posting in the Anime News Network forums.
That's for sure.
So things of the day. It's an anime day. It's a Wednesday, talking a little bit about anime. So I figured I would pull the old anime music video thing of the day. Because back in the day when AMVs were still, not everyone could make them, and I used to actually go to AMV contests at cons because there wasn't really YouTube like we have it now.
So you had no things of the day, and all you could think of was to search for a music video that was old?
Actually, no. I got a good bunch of things of the day, but I specifically thought to look for an anime music video that was from a show that was way popular in American fandom and then was mostly forgotten by now.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know of any good Ranma ones. I knew of a good Kare Kano one because that would have fit, but that video was actually super long and doesn't really live up to modern sensibilities that well. But this Escaflowne video is great primarily because it uses Megadeth.
That's a good choice.
Spoilers for Escaflowne.
Sure, whatever.
It is. It's a pretty big spoiler, but it's a weird spoiler. It's not a plot spoiler. It's like it spoils something that either you'd figure it out right away or you're just going to be thinking, what the fuck? Really? That's what happens in Escaflowne? It's a pretty good video.
So, you may not know this, or you may, but it is currently the 20th anniversary of one of the best games, Wolfenstein 3D.
I was never a big fan, and I didn't get into FPSs until
We
Doom.
know that you hate treasure and you love Nazis, right? But I like collecting treasure and killing Nazis. So I like this game. And I'm playing it right now with the sound off. Oh, yeah, Freundleben. Oh, shit, I don't even have the Oh, shit, I got the knife. Oh, snap. Uh-oh. Anyway, so you should play this game. And because
it's just a maze game with some mediocre shooting. And
Sure.
while it was revolutionary for being effectively the first popular modern FPS, it wasn't really an FPS. And Doom was the real revolution.
Anyway.
Doom 1.
So, if you want to play this game, which you should, right, you could buy it on Steam for a very low price with all the expansions and everything, right? But there's also the shareware, which is just, episode 1. But you don't want to play that old shareware version, right? What you want to do, because you might, be unsophisticated, is you want to go to this website here because it is now, because it's the anniversary, you can play this in your web browser. All episodes 1, 2, and 3 in the web browser. I recommend you read the instructions if you can't figure out the controls. It should be good for you people who don't have problems with the motion sickness, because there's no up and down. There's only left and right and forward and back. And you can kill Nazis. And it's awesome.
So in the meta moment, this weekend, Friday and Saturday, is ZenkaiCon, a convention in Pennsylvania. We'll be there doing a panel about Dude Bro, the Dude Bro from My Shit Is Fucked Up, So I Have to Shoot/Slice You Too. It's Straight Up Dog Time.
Yep.
And My Little Pony.
And Nazis.
We are also doing
Godwin's Law, right? We can't avoid it.
Doing motivational anime, which you may have seen at Anime Boston, where we also did it. After that, Otacon's coming up. It's up to them if we appear there, because we submitted panels, as we do every year, and we were accepted every year up until they decided they hated us. So, if you want us to be there, tell them. Kineticon is coming up. We will be there running the panels department and doing a bunch of our own stuff. And It's looking pretty good that Dave Riley's gonna come and do some stuff too.
Oh shit, son, it's on now.
I'm legit excited about that. Fast Karate is like one of the only podcasts I listen to.
I just stopped listening to it, but I do not dislike it. In fact, I like it a great deal. I just stopped listening to it. I don't know why.
You should listen to that Grimrock episode.
What is Grimrock?
That's that game we were talking about a few days ago.
What kind? Well, I'd never even heard of it.
With the boss that was weird.
How many games have weird bosses? Like all of them.
The one that was crazy weird. It was a giant cube.
Oh, that one.
Spoilers, I guess.
I remember this conversation now.
And the Penny Arcade Expo Prime will probably be there doing stuff. And PAX Dev was announced. It's actually happening, though they just took a while to update the website. There's a decent chance at least one of us will be there. And everything else can wait. We don't have that many important announcements.
Remember to go find us on the internet with all our internet things. The book club is 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami.
A bunch of our panels, lectures, workshops, and such are on my YouTube channel. You can just watch them.
Yep. Also, Google has a new Hangout with, what's it called? It's Hangout with On the Air mode.
We're going to start using it.
We're going to start using, because that's basically, it's like, wow, it's a Skype killer and a Ustream killer.
Yeah, watch out, kids.
So if you want to know what's going on with that, what you got to do is you got to get on Google Plus, even though you might be hating on it, and you got to, follow Geeknights. There's actually a Geeknights page on Google Plus that you can follow and add to your Google Plusness.
Now, if you really don't want to, it looks like we can just stream this straight to YouTube as well.
Yeah, so
we're either going to make a dedicated YouTube account just for this, or we're going to use my Geeknights Rim account because that's where every other video is.
Right, but the point is that there's going to be, if you follow us on the internets, then you will be able to get these YouTube links to watch these streams and also records of, any Hangout on the Air stuff we may do.
And we'll get right to it, but one last thing I do want to point out, because people don't seem to realize this. Every episode of Geek Nights going all the way back to October 31st, 2005, is available on our website. Every single one. You can download all of them.
Yep.
And there's like 800-something episodes up there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask us to do a show on a thing, at least search the website. There's a decent chance we did it. And if you're lucky, you might be able to find another 10 or so episodes of Beta Geek Nights that are also on the internet and actually pretty easy to find if you know where to look.
One last meta thing, very quick. Barcamp NYC 7 is June 9th. 2012 in the Microsoft offices. You want to go to, I think, barcampnyc.org to get all the info about that. I'm helping to organize it for the second year in a row. It's awesome. If you are a technology person.
Awesome.
Near New York City, you should be there. It's free.
So a long time ago, we'd go to anime cons like OhioCon and Anime Central and Otakon. We're talking like a decade ago, 2002 era.
Mm-hmm.
And that was around like the gigantic boom in American anime fandom.
Well, that wasn't really till 04-ish, but yeah.
No, you forget there was a pre-boom there where the cons were getting big and like Suncoast and all these places were selling VHS like crazy. DVDs were starting to get sold more and more.
Yeah, that was 03, 04.
No, Suncoast was selling VHS well before that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm saying the height of the boom, the peak, the climax, was a year or two later.
Yeah, but this was during this huge anime bubble. I mean, first fan subs.
It was on the ramp up.
All right, anyway. So in this era, go to any anime con, go talk to any anime fan, and it was all like Ranma. They knew Ranma and Fushigi Yugi, and there were these shows that just like everybody knew. You'd see so many people cosplaying as them. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, there were things that were crazy popular, and it seems that now you talk to the modern anime fans, and it's like people don't even remember. Old school people know them, right? But even then, they're not occupying a large space in the mind share of the old school people necessarily.
But then again, what is occupying a large share of the mindscape in anime conventions today? Homestuck, video games.
Portal and Homestuck.
I mean, I'm not to go down that whole separate discussion
Adventure Time
of what an anime con should or should not be or any of that stuff, but there was definitely a very surprisingly homogenous fan base, and that the people who were in the anime subculture or were watching a lot of anime had all seen mostly the same shows, at least among the big shows. Like, everyone had seen Ranma and knew what it was. Everyone saw Fushigi Yugi. Everybody cosplayed as Ranma and Fushigi Yugi. And I remember when Full Metal Alchemist was airing, people were, going crazy about it. Everyone was cosplaying as it was the exact same thing in the exact same manner. And I remember saying often in panels and lectures and even just talking to people that it was the same thing. And the argument I would usually get is, no, Ranma's crap, or whatever show I was talking about was crap. Full Metal Alchemist is a show for the ages. It is forever. It is the best show ever. And if Brotherhood had not come out, Full Metal Alchemist, I think, would be completely forgotten by this point.
I don't think it's. I think it's forgotten, right? It's like people remember it, so it doesn't really fit into this category.
They? I mean,
oh yeah,
people who saw it remember it, but think about how many of the people at anime cons now, 10 years after when we started going, are younger and never even saw it when it was popular. Their first con was after its peak of popularity.
Yeah, I still think that was a show that was on Cartoon Network during the boomiest period. Therefore, I think it's not. It doesn't qualify really as a show that was a hit and is now forgotten. It just was a hit and is now not as popular. But it's not a show that's forgotten, right? Forgotten is like, no one even talks about it anymore. But it used to be all over the place. Like imagine if 10 years from now you went to and it's just like, Naruto. What? Oh, I remember that. Whoa.
Well, Scott, here's the problem with what you're saying. So that's probably just a function of time.
Well, it's a degree, right? And how can you even measure it, right? The degree of how popular it was at the beginning compared to the degree of how much it has been forgotten. Clearly, Full Metal Alchemist has been forgotten to a, medium, if not large degree. But, there are many, many other shows
But it's also been much less time, and I am 100% sure, give it 5 more years, and Full Metal Alchemist will be well on its way to Fushigi Yugi levels.
Quite possible.
I would bet money. I would bet a lot of money if anyone was willing to take that bet.
If you're only counting the first one, it's quite possible.
Even the second one.
It's possible.
I'm pretty sure. But so we want to talk a little bit about those shows that
not betting against you.
Had their day in the sun in America in popular anime fandom culture. Like the shows that, if you said like you didn't know what the show was or hadn't seen it, people would look at you weird. Like people would be really surprised if back in 2003, if you were like, Koto-cha, Child's Toy, what the hell's that?
Right. It's like you'd go to the Anime Club library back in the day, like the early 2000s, and you'd look through, and, it's sort of like my brain would sort of categorize shows into shows people know and shows people don't know, right? So, shows people knew would be those popular ones, like Ranma, people know that show. Kai Bebop, people know that show. Evangelion, people know that show. But then you'd see, Kishin Core. It's like, people don't know that show.
KO Century Beast.
People don't know that show.
Cool.
People don't know that show.
No, we got to do a show on that show.
Yeah, where we have to find it.
I know, I'll get it.
So it's like you would look through, and that was the two most broad categories. Shows people knew, shows people don't know. But what's happened is since then, a lot of those shows people knew, right, have moved to the shows people don't know.
Now, you could argue this is just a function of time.
Even though I know them.
Because, shows are stupidly popular and then fade from memory. And this is why whenever we do one of those anime you should see equivalent panels where we list a bunch of shows and tell people why they should or should not watch them. And, it's an easy thing to do at a con.
All right.
But when we do it, we're very careful to always point out that we don't talk about a lot of recent shows. And we don't talk about them because it's very difficult to gauge how much staying power a show really has when you just watched it. I mean, I loved the ever-living shit out of Fushigi Yugi when I was watching it. And Lodos War, when I was, a little kid, I thought that was one of the greatest things ever made by man. They don't hold up that well.
Well, it's not even a question of whether they're good or not. It's just a question of somehow they've been, not lost. Like, we still have them, but it's like no one talks about them anymore, even though they were highly talked about. And I just, looking at other geekeries, I don't really see it happening so much.
That's actually, I was thinking about this show after we decided to do it, and that's kind of the road I was going down.
Right? Look at, let's go through the geekeries just one at a time quickly, right? So, superhero, nerdy comic books, right? the big ones of the olden days are still remembered. Secret Wars, Watchmen, right? Watchmen's from 1986. It's remembered, right? Whether the new fans or the old fans, they don't let the old hits get forgotten.
Now remember, we're being very careful. Old hits. There's tons of obscure and or crap comics that no one remembers,
shit
but
tons.
they were never hugely popular to begin with.
Yeah, Crisis on, Infinite Earths. Guess what? It's not lost.
Now, American
People
comics
still remember that
kind of
shit.
cheat in that who is a really important superhero from 40 years ago? Name one.
Batman.
All right,
Superman.
so they've still got Batman and Superman.
Exactly, right.
Imagine if Ranma was just like still going.
Then it wouldn't be forgotten, which is why, look at Naruto.
What if it was still going, but no one talked about it anymore? Like, imagine.
You mean like the Oh My Goddess manga?
Yeah. Like, imagine if that's exactly the example I was going to use. So I've used a different one now. Imagine if Batman just wasn't like, there were still Batman movies like there are now, but like no one really talked about him, and other than older comic fans and older like cinema buffs, no one really like knew much about Batman. Like, they'd heard of it maybe, but they didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But yet we kept making Batman movies. I've found that James Bond is like that for a lot of punk kids. A lot of punk kids have never actually seen James Bond.
They got to get schooled by Dr. No.
Timothy Dalton.
No.
I like Timothy Dalton.
Whatever. What James Bond movies was Timothy Dalton in?
He was in only one, right? Live and Let Die?
Nope.
Nope.
That's Roger Moore.
Oh, it was Roger Moore. All right. He was
so you don't even know.
Because I didn't actually see the entire Timothy Dalton one. I saw it on cable during the James Bond
What even
marathon.
happens in the movie that he's in?
Fuck if I don't. I remember he was
So
there.
you're saying that he's great and you don't even know a goddamn thing about it?
I was saying he was great because he's the one that everyone says is bad.
He is bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I think he might have been in 2 and not 1, but one that he was definitely in was License to Kill. Anyway, I'm almost 100% sure of that.
All I know is the only time I ever saw him was during the marathon of all the James Bonds that happens every year. It was just on the TV in the background. I was sitting there like playing a GBA, and that happened to be the one that was on. I was like, who's that? Oh, that's James Bond. Oh, that's Timothy Dalton.
I was indeed correct. License to Kill, Timothy Dalton. IMDb rating 6.5.
That's higher than I would have expected.
He was also in The Living Daylights. He was in 2. So I was 100% correct.
Not
he was
bad.
in 2 James Bond movies, both of which were not so good. All right. So, anyway, let's go through some other geekery. So we covered comic books.
Sports. So people still talk about like the 1944 Cup. The Oilers, the Edmonton Oilers.
There was a thread on Reddit Hockey, and they were like, best hockey moments. And you know what? The videos were coming from all eras. The geekery, the hockey geeks, do not forget any hockey. Video games, right? People have not forgotten The Legend of Zelda. Right? I mean, not a lot of people, more punk kids haven't played it when I talk to them.
But they know what it is.
But they know it, right? Even if they haven't played Mario 1, which I'm pretty sure everyone's played Mario 1.
Dude, adventure is like part of pop nerd culture.
And it's not forgotten. It's like, how many people played Adventure? You go around, but if you hold up the duck, people are like, it's the duck.
Now, Scott, there are
even though it's a dragon.
Outlaw was a very popular game.
Relatively.
And it is completely forgotten except by you, me, and the people who were at that PAX panel we ran.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kaboom was one of the top 10 selling Atari games, and there's only
no one knows that anymore except for like hardcore video game
awesome people.
Yeah. So there is
Even though I can't play.
There is some of that in video games.
Right, but the thing is, it's not the this is the thing, right? The video games that were popular and forgotten weren't the A+ popular. They were the A- popular.
I'm going to make a different
point. Or
point.
the B+ popular.
They were popular before an internet, which makes things very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Because, now we have so much access to stuff, but these anime that were forgotten, there was internet the entire time.
Yeah. But the point is, video games that reached the peak level of popularity were not forgotten.
Super Mario Brothers.
It was the ones that
Dude, your grandma probably knows who Mario is.
Exactly. It's the ones that were popular for a short period. Like, say, Primal Rage, right? Was very popular, but it was a flash in the pan, and thus was forgotten, except by people who remember the dinosaur fighting game. Right? And, but in anime, these shows, were A+ top popularity, at least in the U.S. among the fandom at the time. There was nothing more popular.
I don't think you guys can understand how
then they
many
disappeared.
Ranma 1/2 cosplayers and cosplay skits there were.
It was the most popular thing in the U.S. fandom. There was nothing more popular than it. It would be like if Portal was forgotten, right? Portal is like the most popular video game now. Imagine if people forgot it in 10 years.
Yeah, if in 10 years, like, a guy cosplays as Portal and one guy is like, oh my god, Portal. Yeah, old school.
Yeah, that's what it's like. So, any other geekeries left? We did comics, video, board games, I guess is sort of weird, right? I mean, there weren't any, the mega hits are sort of never forgotten.
The idea of mega hits is relatively
But I mean,
recent.
but Settlers is still hanging around, right? It's not going anywhere.
It's still well known. But then again, El Grande was really popular, and no one knows that.
But it wasn't A+ popular.
How do you know? You don't know the numbers. You're just completely speculating.
It's not as popular as Settlers Carcassonne, which is still around.
Yeah, but it was when it was out.
And look how old Munchkin is. We played that at RIT Social Night, and it's still hitting hard.
Yeah,
Magic the Gathering still hitting hard.
At the same time, it's
Pokemon trading card games still hitting hard.
It's easy to cherry pick these examples.
It is.
I mean, Magic the Gathering was popular.
Think of a
then not
board
then
game that
popular
was
again.
super, super popular, A+, that is now forgotten.
See, you say A+. What exactly does that mean? We don't
As
have
in,
the
it
numbers.
is the most popular thing at the time.
Among who? Just German gamers? Just board gamers?
Among people who care about that particular geekery.
I think you're still cherry
Because
picking too much.
even Ranma was the most popular among anime fans, but among the general populace, it was nothing.
Yeah.
At least in the U.S., right? It was non-existent. So we're talking about among the geeks. The geeks have forgotten it.
Well, let's go through the animes first, then we'll get back to other examples.
I think we proved the point that it's sort of this really hasn't happened as obviously in the other geekeries as it has in anime for some reason.
Well, TV fandom. People who talk about TV in like sitcom forums or whatever, they still talk about the Andy Griffith Show and I Love Lucy and the
I Love
Honeymooners.
Lucy has not died.
Yep.
It
And
is remembered probably
I've been
forever.
watching the Andy Griffith Show every now and then on Netflix.
Well, that's,
you know what?
that's your jam.
You know what? It holds up pretty well.
It
Way
holds
better.
Up. I've watched an episode or two in somewhat recent years, and it holds up about halfway.
It holds up as well as like the Cosby Show.
Yeah, or the Flintstones.
Yeah. Flintstones is better than the Jetsons. I hated the Jetsons.
They're
as
sort
a
of
kid.
equal-ish.
I hated that family. I hated Elroy. I watched it, but I
do
didn't like
admit
them.
that in the I mean, the thing is, right, in the Jetsons, it's sort of like I like all the future-y stuff, but yeah, none of the characters are like really great. You don't really like any of them super much, and at least on the Flintstones, you really like Barney is awesome.
Yep, and Fred would cause some trouble, but he caused trouble because he was headstrong.
And Dino
Meanwhile,
was pretty
George
awesome.
Jetson caused trouble because he's a spineless twit.
Yeah. Anyway.
But so we keep saying Ranma. There are a lot of shows like this. Remember Fushigi Yugi?
Yep.
How much of that did you watch?
0.
Really?
But I knew enough about it because it was that popular. Right, that I didn't.
It was
even
one of those shows.
That's how popular it was. You don't even understand that. Without seeing a single episode, without watching it ever, I knew a significant amount about it just because it was that popular. You couldn't avoid it.
I remember hanging out with 2 Miyaka cosplayers at Anime Central 2003.
This is when you go to your room and the craft store and you make the fastest Tamahome cosplay that you can possibly make. You did that once with the oh my god his movie with your blue triangle.
Oh
right?
my god! So I took a piece with $3 in my wallet. I went to I think Joann Fabrics and I bought 1 square yard of blue felt, and then I took a white sheet that we had been using as a curtain in our kitchen at RIT, and I wrapped it around myself and wore white pants under it. I turned that piece of felt into the front half of like this symbol, and then I put something on my forehead.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that Fushigi Yugi was the jam back then to everybody. And you know what? It's kind of a crappy like media. It does not hold up. It is like 90s-ish anime to a T.
I can't comment not having seen it or rewatched it, let alone watched it.
I have no desire to rewatch it. But if you had asked anyone in anime fandom at that time, they would have said that Fushigi Yugi was a show for the ages that we will talk about for 50 years.
Well, could it be, right? The one thing that sets the anime apart from these other geekeries is that it was an imported anime, right? Is that it was, these things, animes already existed going back to Astro Boy.
Spaghetti Westerns.
That's true, right? But I mean, an important geekery that we were involved in.
All right, so
Right.
and
And the point is, right? So as we've discussed many times, right? The anime that we got early on was they were cherry picking the best stuff. So we had this sort of false impression that the anime was all good when they were just leaving the crap in Japan. But at the same time, they would bring over not some animes that were not the best, and we would watch them and really, really like them because we didn't really have much to compare it to. So any anime was awesome because what were we comparing it to, right? It was like if I had a closet full of food and in there was like foie gras but also cheesecake, and I gave you cheesecake and you said that is the best tasting thing in the universe, and that's because you didn't even know the foie gras was in the closet, right? You didn't even know it existed. Right?
Now,
then years later, when everyone's eating foie gras, you've forgotten the cheesecake.
See, I would go with this, except that I think the trend continues pretty much unabated. So I don't think that's the cause. Now,
I think it is
I
think it is a factor on some of the shows, because some of the shows, like say Fushigi Yugi, right? They were liked in their day because you didn't have much to compare it to.
Well, like Lodoss War is, I think, a better example of that. Lodoss
there you
War, to people who had seen. Because Lodoss War was primarily picked up in America by people who had just watched like the sci-fi stuff. They'd seen like Vampire Hunter D.
And this was D&D, the anime. So you really, compared to 70s D&D cartoon, oh shit, son.
I mean, kids who had just gotten into anime saw Lodoss War, and it looked to them amazing. And Deedlit was the most beautiful thing they had ever seen. And like, I remember I was desperate to see more of it because Blockbuster only had one VHS tape of it.
I remember I would go to the store and I would see this big row of VHS tapes. There were a lot of them, and I was like, whatever that is, I want to watch it. I didn't even know what it was.
It would have cost.
And I never did. I only watched that OAV one that was on the single DVD.
I remember trying to convince my parents
and
to
I watched
buy
some Lodoss Island.
a DVD player when DVD had first come out because Lodoss War on VHS was like over $200 to get all of it. The box set DVD, one of the first DVDs of anime to be released in the US, as far as I can tell, was like $100. And I was like, Mom, you'll save money if you just buy me a DVD player and that anime instead of buying me just the anime. Except DVD players were still really expensive.
Yeah, I remember. And the thing is, people don't realize how recent DVD is. In 2001, which was 11 years ago, right? The PS2 was coming out. Right? We were at RIT.
And people were saying, oh man, if you get a PS2, it comes with a DVD player. Holy shit, you can watch DVDs.
It was 2000 or 2001, and we were like, holy shit, we gotta get that PS2 at the casino night. And we bet it, we put all our fake money together and put it all on black and lost. If we would have won, it would have come up black, we would have had a PS2 to share amongst us.
And then it would have been that episode of The Simpsons.
That's right.
We're getting off on a tangent of DVD players. I don't want to talk about that
right.
that special DVD player we had.
But you get the idea. Some of these shows, right, the reason that they were super popular and forgotten is that they were incorrectly popular because
I don't say incorrectly. It's a you ride the Magnum XL 200, which was the tallest roller coaster at one point in Cedar Point and the world, but now is like the third or fourth tallest at the
park. They
park.
are no longer the tallest roller coaster, and that is why they are not given as much attention as they used to be. But some shows are actually the tallest roller coaster and have been forgotten and are deserving of riding and attention.
All right, so what's the show that is an A anime that's been forgotten? I got a bunch, but what's your example?
Well, I mean, the one we just brought up was His and Her Circumstances, right?
Kare Kano, who remembers that?
I only watched half that show, and it was the awesomest. I don't know why I didn't finish it.
I really liked it. That show...
That was like the Geeknights show, right?
After, Ava and that.
Yeah. But it's like, but people now, you talk about Geeknights, they'll be talking about FLCL or, all this other stuff.
Not saying those shows aren't great, but Kare Kano, I don't think... I would wager if we were at an anime con,
I think I might just go watch it, and then we'll do a show on it.
One or two people will raise their hands if we brought up Kare Kano.
Only the old school. No one else.
I mean, if we're talking about... I don't know if it was an A anime, though.
A?
I think it's a B. I think it's a good B. I liked it.
I don't remember. I gotta watch it again.
I'd have to watch it again.
Gotta watch it again.
Yeah, we did a show on why you have to watch it again before you judge it.
Let's watch it again.
All right. But like Irresponsible Captain Tyler, I think it's an A anime.
That's A for you.
I think it's A for everyone.
I gotta watch it
You
again.
do. I will stand by it.
But
being
that is most definitely forgotten.
Scott, I'll bet you $100 that you will say it's A after you watch it.
Maybe.
200.
Maybe.
500.
Sure.
$5,000.
Okay, sure.
Really?
Whatever.
Actually, I don't want to take that bet because I'm 100% sure you will. Anyway. But I think there's a completely different factor here that I've been mulling over. Anime fandom, more so than any other stereotypically geeky or nerdy fandom in the United States, has a ludicrously higher churn rate or turnover rate. I think more so than almost any other hobby in America right now, people get into anime, go to anime cons, have this huge like anime sort of like honeymoon, and then get out of anime and stop going to anime cons and watch it occasionally on the internet, and that's it. Like they disengage from the fan culture. So I think the people do find like Ranma and watch it, but those people don't go to cons anymore, so we never see them. They don't participate in anime culture anymore, so we don't talk to them.
Right. There is no question that there are a large number of people who read anime, who watch anime, or even sometimes read manga and comics and such, but they are not in that culture, right? Walking Dead keeps selling trades like crazy nonstop. Those people are not comic book gay.
Oh, yeah, but
right?
I'm making a separate point.
There are people at my work who they watch an anime or two on the Hulus and such, but are they anime fans? Would they ever go to an anime con? Do you actually know anything about anime? Not really.
But I'm not talking about them. I'm making a much more specific point that has, I think, deeper consequences. I think these are people who became self-identified anime fans.
So they got in. I was talking about the people who were never in.
Yeah. I'm making a
just
completely separate
watch.
point. I'm saying there are people who started going to anime cons, got really into anime, but then as they continued to be into anime, they disengaged from anime fan culture for a variety of reasons. So those people all eventually do find Ranma and all these other,
Well, they might.
I think a lot of them do. And also, the old comic book guy is still there at every Comic Con.
He is.
But not nearly as many of the old anime guys are at every anime con.
That's true.
So the avenues for new fans to discover the old things are less in anime because the people who would mentor them no longer engage with the fandom in a way that they would run into them. Coupled with the fact that I've met a lot of people and seen a lot of people who self-identified as anime fans and then pointedly self-identified as no longer an anime fan.
Even though they may watch anime still.
Yes, but they know they disengage. They don't want anything to do with anime culture, anime fandom. They just watch anime on their own.
See, this is actually something else that's sort of unique to our particular situation, but I just sort of realized, right? Is that, even though we were in that generation that saw anime on the Sci-Fi
Dude, we
Channel,
ran the biggest anime club in North America for years.
I'm just saying, even though we were in the generation that watched in the Sci-Fi Channel, right? We were not the true old school people who were watching, Star Blazers and Robotech on UHF, right? Those are the real old school US people. We were not there with a line of VCRs.
No, we were the next school.
We were the next school.
We were the end of the VHS fan subs, like SVHS days.
But because when we got into the anime fandom, right, that one school older than us was still there to show us the way.
Remember
and
those
that
guys?
is how we absorbed both schools and also the future schools.
Yep. I mean, I would go to the anime club library and I'd be like, what should I watch? And someone older than me would
Marmalade
be
Boy.
like, yeah, watch this. What's it about? Watch it. But watch it. And I'd watch it. And they were usually right. And there was this continuation of the culture, which in comic fandom in America is almost too strong.
Yep.
But in anime fandom, I think that continuity of culture is broken. Like, I think it's absolutely like at the edge of being completely broken. And to use a personal anecdote, I'll be honest, if we were not, sort of industry press people, if we were not doing Geek Nights, being press, commenting, performing, I probably would have stopped going to anime cons like 4 years ago.
Yeah, probably.
Because there's nothing for me at them that's related to anime. I mean, Daryl Surratt and Mike Toole and all these people do great stuff, but we know a lot of what they know. The things they show me are
because they've told it to us already.
Yes, or they're things that I already know, or things that I'll find out as I'm researching that thing, and vice versa. I'm not going to say anything that Daryl Surratt doesn't already know about anime.
That's for sure.
So there's no one to show me any mysteries because I've plumbed a lot of the mysteries.
Yep.
So and beyond that, the fan culture has nothing for me anymore. And it's not just because of the age difference. Because the age difference between us, 30s and the punk kids at AnimeCons now, 14, is not bigger than the difference between us when we were in our 20s and the 40 and 50-year-old guys who were at the cons telling us what to watch.
That's right.
I think
even though a lot of what we were told was not by 40 and 50-year-old guys at cons, but by, we were 18 and 25-year-old guys at Anime Club were telling us.
But I got a lot from cons, too.
We got some.
And I think there was a continuity of the
and
con
also
culture.
when we would go to the con dealer's room, right, it wasn't just all Naruto headbands, right? We would see, basically all they had in those days was old school stuff, and you would learn just looking around what was going on.
Yep, you'd see that blonde woman everywhere. Like, who's that? And then you'd learn about Mattel and all that. Arcadia, Skies of Matsumoto verse, 399 Galaxies.
Yeah, you see stuff and you try to figure out what it is. Now you have to dig in the dealer's room to find any old stuff.
But I think that this phenomenon is universal to all things that are in any way related to popular culture. Even within subcultures, they have their own popular cultures, like in those universes, in those fishbowls. I think this idea of things are super popular and they fade out, fads, like it happens.
Yep.
I just think, I posit to you, this is barely a hypothesis, that anime fandom in America specifically has this problem an order of magnitude or more greater than any other equivalent fandom. And I have some theories as to why, and that's all I got for you.
Yep.
It amazes me, like, we'll do an anime you should see panel at an anime con, and I'd say 90% of the people have not seen anime that I would consider kind of like basic. And I don't think I'm unjustified in saying that they're basic. They're like going to a film convention being like, so I don't think I need to tell you all to watch Citizen Kane, and 3/4 of the audience are like, Citizen who?
Yeah.
What?
So yeah, we should, you should go out, and if you are one of those younger fans who has not been mentored by the old, you probably can't possibly be in that category because you already listened to the show.
Yeah. But I want to hear your comments and anecdotes. I want to figure out if there is something to this, if there is something different about anime fandom. My strongest hypothesis is that it has to do with the churn of anime fans engaging in anime fan culture, so we can't see. It's like under the radar, off the radar anime fans.
I also want to put together a list of shows, right, that not even the A shows, right, that were forgotten, but also sort of the shows that were moderately popular, 10, 12, 15 years ago that have now disappeared. Shows that are sort of like on that, you're under arrest
I was going to say, YUA
right,
is
like
probably
there was
the
a
poster
show,
child of that.
It was like about these two police girls, and back in the day, it was kind of popular.
Kind of
like,
popular. There was, like, everyone knew that show.
Everyone at the anime club knew that show, at least.
Everyone at an anime con
I haven't
knew
heard
that
anyone
show.
else really mention it outside the anime club, but it's like, it was moderately popular. I know some people were super fans of it, big time, and now you don't hear about that show at all.
Yep.
It is gone.
Marmalade Boy, Kimagure, Orange Road.
Right.
We already talked about Kare Kano.
The quality of these shows you could debate over, right? Are they good or bad? But the point is, they had some level of popularity, in the past, and now they are effectively disappeared, at least in the U.S. culture. And I don't know for sure in Japan, but I'm pretty sure, a good guess, no one in Japan is talking about, Marmalade Boy.
But Scott, how many people remember, Wings?
What do you mean Wings?
It's a sitcom from America.
Oh, I was thinking of anime.
That was moderately popular.
I only know it existed because it was on after a show or before a show that I wanted to watch.
That's just pop culture stuff, but those shows are all forgotten, and the only ones that are going to be remembered in the long run are things like, the classics, the Andy Griffith Show,
I'm surprised
The Simpsons.
I'm surprised people remember 21 Jump Street.
I don't think most people know that it's based on a show.
Oh, you think it's like that?
I think the only people who know it's based on the show are people who are 30 or older, and 30 is probably like literally the youngest person.
You think anyone's going to see Prometheus who hasn't seen Alien?
I think the majority
obviously
of
at
people,
least one, but
I think half.
I'm
going to say half the people who go see Prometheus.
If I owned a movie theater, I'd go in before the movie. I'd be like, raise your hand if you have not seen Aliens.
So thus something I want to say about anime cons, because I think we could fix this, if you think it's a problem, pretty easily by doing something very simple at anime cons. You don't have to change anything. Let the Homestuck kids run around and have their gay pony panels, whatever it is they want. Who cares? All you have to do, This is the thing that we tried to push through at Otakon, which is one of the reasons they kicked us off the staff, as far as I can tell. Have screening rooms, show anime, have those showings be curated, and have someone who knows what they're talking about introduce the show.
But those kids are never going to come in that room.
I think they would if you didn't schedule them as, Kare Kano episode 1. No one's going to go to that. If you schedule this as fucking robot shows, people will show up to that just to see what's up.
Someone might show up.
I think people would. Shows your mom wouldn't let you watch. Old stuff you probably should have watched. Stuff you probably didn't think you'd like. And you show them Princess Tutu, and you have someone actually explain, so here's the deal with this show. Here's why this show.
Yep, it's the old idea.
The old idea we've been pitching for 6 years.
Why don't we use one of our too many Kineticon rooms and do it?
Because that's the screenings department. I don't want to mess. I don't want to get involved. I got enough to deal with. Also, I don't have time to personally curate that.
I could do one room for 3 days.
Yeah, you have other duties, Captain, head of operations for panels and workshops.
I'll just quit that job and do such house.
If you quit that job, I swear to God, I'll punch you in the eyeball.
Anyway,
the left one.
Let's go and finish the show.
I think we're pretty much done. We had our rambly old timer back in my day. The thing is, back in our day, the old anime cons, there was still punk kids running around yelling and screaming. A lot of that stuff hasn't changed that much. I think the only thing that's changed is that back then, the older people were still there in force next to the younger people.
There were also less people total.
Yeah. But even as Otakon started getting gigantic, when it took over the whole BCC and all that, there was still a lot of there was a wider range of ages represented more equally, and I feel like it's skewing younger and younger, and meanwhile the other bubble of the older anime fans are just leaving.
Yep.
And we could do a whole show on why I think that is. We might have already done a show on that, but I think that, in my opinion, that disconnect in the anime culture and anime fandom is the primary reason why we're seeing so many very popular shows forgotten so quickly.
The memory is not being passed down.
Yes, relative to other fan cultures of similar things.
Yep.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.